Good evening. My name is Sebrena Sumrah Kelly, and welcome to Sabrena's Corner with 108 Praise. This evening, it brings me great pleasure to be sitting with one of Atlanta's icon, world's icon. And we just wrapped up a very, very important event, annual gala. It's called the adking Youth Foundation Gala here in beautiful Atlanta, Georgia. And sitting with me this evening is the wife, the widow of Reverend Adking. And you're going to hear a little bit about this woman and her journey and what she has contributed to our society from civil rights on down to today. And I am very honored to sit with Mrs. King this evening. How are you doing?
Quite well, thank you.
I want to commend you for your strength, for all that you've endured, and you still are such a vibrant leader. And we are so proud to have you, to stand on your shoulders for what you've contributed to Atlanta, to civil rights, and for our legacy. And so we are so proud to have you. So let's chat a little bit, Mrs. King, and tell us how you're doing and a little bit about you, where you're from.
Thank you. I'm a native Dothan, Alabama, and an only child. And so having lived in Dothan, Alabama with my single mom, who was just beautiful in my upbringing and my raising, and moved from Dothan, Alabama to Atlanta, Georgia. So Atlanta is more home for me than really Dothan, Alabama. Yes. Now, what's your next question?
Well, we want to know what started the relationship of Miss Naomi Barbara King to Mr. Reverend A.D. King. How did that get started?
Thank you for asking that. I don't know who's familiar with the term, what we call puppy love, but at the ages of like 12 and 13, I met my boyfriend at that time, who later became my husband, my Boaz, at a YWCMA party, and we did just what young teenagers like that, like puppy love, did, and enjoyed that until it developed to a serious matter, and then I married that wonderful man.
Yes. Now, we know the movement started, and some of us, we didn't have a choice. You didn't have a choice like some of the other giants. You simply dove in and said, what do we need to do to fix the problem as it relates to civil rights? How did that got started with you joining the movement with your then husband?
Let me go back just a little bit. Dr. King, Martin Luther King had 4 beautiful children, and Yolanda, Martin the third, Dexter, and then Bernice. Yolanda and I were born on the very same date, November 17th. November 17th for her, and 55, November 17th, 1931 for me. And when Yolanda was born, I was so excited that that I had to go to Montgomery and show Yolanda some love. Yes. So it was then at that point that I had always had a close connection with my brother-in-law, ML at that time, and it was there in 1955 that one of his incidents where he was arrested there, and he came home late at night, and he said, and I was there visiting, I was in the darkened living room of the home, and my nickname was Nene, and that's all he ever called me was Nene. Yes. And so sitting there about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night in the darkened living room, and when ML came in, as we called him, he came in, and I was seated in the living room, and Coretta was attending to Yoki, as we called her. And when he came in, he said, Nene. I said, yes, ML. He went straight to the mantle, and I was glad the living room was dark, where you couldn't see my face, only the street light shone in from through the window from the street light. And he said, Nene. I said, yes, ML. He said, do you know what happened to me? I said, no. And as he talked with his hand on his mantle, I noticed he kept tugging at his collar, shirt collar, and which was open. And he said, Nina, he said, I was detained at the police station. And he said, Nina, they tried to choke me to death with my tie. I said, what did you say? He said, yes, they tried to choke me to death, with my tie. And then at that point, tears began to fall into my ears because I could tell he was kind of like in pain, a little bit. And as he continued to talk about that, it was then that I knew that he would become the leader that he did become to the world. And my husband was always in the background at his side, always right. But ML always got the attention while my husband was in the background. And that is when I got involved with the movement in 1955 up until this time.
Yes. What did your husband passion was? What did he want to transcend, if you will, to now? After that movement got started, there was something else that stayed with him and says, we're going to have to keep this going. What was that movement for him, for your husband?
That movement for him as that time, as the movement progressed in the stage, and he always had a love for children. I mean, history and what it would show, his passion for leadership with young people, because he dearly, love young people, and so do I. And so I'm thinking that at this point, with him focusing on that was his passion, that was love, to work with the young people so that they could become the best that they could become and did become. And I'm so grateful to Dr. Babs on a banjo, who's there, and who took up that love and that passion for my husband and myself. And so this is direction, that's where he's going. And I'd like for Banjo to come over and speak a minute and talk a little bit more about that. Okay.
Yes. We were actually getting ready to bring Dr. Babs in. I know he helped create this platform with you from 2007 on to now. Right. And he's been an international leader for us here and abroad. And Dr. Babs, we welcome you. Native of Nigeria, and he's also a professor here in Atlanta, and just very much a part of keeping Reverend A.D. King's mission going. And so let's talk a little bit about that, Dr. Babs.
Yes. Just like Ms. King said, Reverend A.D. King loved children dearly. He pastored 4 churches. His brother only pastored 2, Dexter and Ebenezer. He pastored the First Baptist Church in Newman, in Georgia. In fact, he was the assistant pastor in 1957 with his father. And then, from Newman, he went to Birmingham. We call it the outskirts of Birmingham, which is called Insley, First Baptist Church of Insley, and he pastored there. I think it was from 1963 to about before they moved to Louisville, Kentucky, where he pastored Zion Baptist Church. And then when his brother was assassinated, bear in mind it was with him till the last minute. AD was in room 236, ML was in room 336. And 1 hour before the demise of Dr. King, they were playing pillow fight with Andrew Young. That tells you how close they were in life. So I want them to be close in death and not separate them. Yes. According to some that testified, just like you're telling the story of Jesus Christ by this disciple who knew him best, they said there was never a day that AD will not call ML or ML will not call AD. They were close brothers, closer than bread. Having said that, AD distinguished himself by setting up children's chapels. He had a children's chapel in Birmingham, he had a children's chapel in Louisville, he also had a children's chapel here in Atlanta. Because after Dr. King was killed, he came to Atlanta to pastor, and he set up the children's chapel, and it's still in existence to today. So whatever he touched lasted beyond him, because his passion for children is beyond any scope. And let me tell you the background of that. ML relied on AD to mobilize children because they were very young themselves. And AD was always in charge. And when they were arrested, the reason children became very instrumental was if they're under 18, they cannot be in jail for more than 24 hours. They have to be released without any bail. So it became an economic struggle for them, and a strategy that wins the heart and emotion of the whole world. When they saw children being locked up in jail, being put in wagons like animals, it spoke to the morality of the American populace. So that had an international impact. So they knew what they were doing. And they selected a city that they could control that would make the greatest impact. Selecting Montgomery was because Montgomery was small enough, but easily to be managed. They wouldn't have been able to be successful by doing that in New York because it's so big. So they selected strategically the location they want to make the greatest impact. So Reverend A.D. King was always the strategist behind all this thing. And so Mrs. King felt that the story has to be told. And not only that, many people did not know how Reverend King died. They thought he drowned. But Mrs. King believed that it was murdered because she would tell the story. Up to today, the Children's Chapel in Mount Zion Baptist Church and Ebenezer is still in existence today. So what we do is we go around to promote education because we believe that education is the key to the future. The only legacy that the children can hold on to, no one can ever take it away from them. Secondly, we promote what we call 4 values. The first value is called thinking. We said to the children, you have to become problem solver. You have to think outside the box. You've got to become a philosopher. You've got to be intellectual. You've got to use your faculty that God has given you freely. And we introduce different strategies, games, and other things that will motivate that for them to become intellectuals, problem solvers, thinkers. The second thing is believers. We believe that God made us perfect in his own image, and we are wonderfully made. And therefore, everyone should raise up their head and not look down, because the veins of our ancestors run through our veins. And we had queens and kings in Africa. So why are we ashamed of us? That is true because we don't know who we are. When we know who we are, whose we are, we always raise up our head high. So we'll tell the young people, believe in yourself. The third thing is dream. You've got to dream because dream brings hope. Dreams expand your horizon beyond your own limit. Dreams is for the future. Hold on to it. And the last is dare. No excuses. You've got to have it done. Whatever your dream is that God has put into you, actualize it. Make it happen. No excuses. And the last thing is this. While you are trying to make a living, remember the ultimate goal is to build your own wealth, not to work for anybody. And so the mental training has to start from young. That I want to be my own boss. I don't want to work for anybody, because God has given me everything I need in order to excel in life. And it's up to me to do my part.
Thank you for that, Dr. Babs. Tonight at the gala, we saw our children. We saw supporters here from as far as Nigeria come to the A.D. King Youth Foundation Gala. I want you to learn more about the foundation and how you can support financially as well as with your time. because collectively, we as a village are responsible for our youths. We're responsible for giving them the necessary tools, information, and more importantly, let them understand what legacy was created for them to carry on. They are our future. And I want to thank you, Mrs. King, for being with us this evening. I want to thank you, Dr. Babs, for being with us this evening. And until I see you again, I'm Sebrena Sumrah Kelly with Sebrena's Corner, 108 Praise. I thank you so much for listening.